back to another Friday reviews. Friday reviews, Friday film reviews. And in this Friday reviews, I'm going to be talking about a movie called Her, and this was actually sent to me by my friend Chris, so I want to say thank you so much for sending me this movie. I was really excited to watch it, and I watched it pretty much straight away, because I've been looking forward to this one for a while, and I'd heard great things about it. And then I'm now not sure what I'm going to say in the review. I knew straight after the movie, or watching the movie, that I wasn't quite sure what I was going to say in my review, and I've had this with a few things. So if you want a proper review, this probably isn't it. If you want to know my rambly thoughts, this is it. This is my rambly thoughts on Her. Because I have a lot of thoughts about this movie, which is always great. It's always great to have lots of thoughts about a movie. I always love that. But I don't really know how to put them all together properly. So this is just kind of randomly thoughts. If you want a proper review, you probably should go elsewhere. But for my kind of thoughts here, well, let me think. I knew what this movie was about. It was about this man played by, what's his name? Oh, I can't know how to pronounce his name. Phoenix. Jacqueline Phoenix? No, that's probably not right. Anyway, so you know, this guy here, he is set in the future, which, by the way, the futuristic cinematography in this was so beautiful. The city, landscapes and the shots of the city, I think some of it was set in, well, I think it was supposed to be LA, but I think it was filmed in Shanghai. I just read that somewhere, I'm not really quite sure. Anyway, it looked amazing. Definitely beautiful cinematography in this one, but anyway, that's not the point. Basically, it's set in the future, and, you know, you can kind of have interactive, well, like now, you know, on your phone, if you've got an iPhone, you've got Siri, but she's not very good, never knows the answer to anything. Like, I ask Siri things, she never gives me the answer. Oh, by the way, just a side note, if you ask Siri what 0 divided by 0 is, you'll get a really fun answer, so definitely try that out. Anyway, that's not the point. Basically, you know, like Siri, he has a really advanced version of this, and it's called OS, and basically the voice that he gets is Scarlett Johansson, and it's kind of about him and his OS and how realistic this OS is and human-like, and you know, how it can talk with him just like a normal conversation back and forth with somebody, and then how he starts to develop feelings for his OS, and things like that. Basically the premise of the film, that's what I knew before going into this. And the film has so many different kind of layers about it. The first thing I love, it had great music, it had great cinematography. Those are always two big ticks on my list. If something looks fantastic and it's got great music, I always really enjoy it. Secondly, sometimes it was just so beautiful to just look at everything, and that was something that I love. I mean, obviously that goes with the cinematography, but seriously, sometimes I was just like, wow, it's just so nice to look at things. And then they would bring in these little thoughts, and it put a little thought in your mind. You'd be like, aha! That is an interesting thought, and I loved those moments. You know, for example, there's one moment when his OS, who's called Samantha, is talking about the past and how we think about the past, and, you know, just these situations, because she isn't human, so she's trying to figure out these feelings and this human situation. It kind of makes you think about the feelings that you have being a human and the situation you're in as a human person, and it was really, really interesting. I loved those parts, and it was really interesting just to kind of have to think about that, and I really, really enjoyed that, and so I felt like the film was kind of on this kind of same level. And then sometimes, though, I do have a couple of twiggles about it, but I still gave it a good rating. It is a really great film, but I'll tell you my little twiggles about it. So the film is going along, and it's just this kind of interesting, thought-provoking kind of situation, and then occasionally it would like throw this random thing in, which I felt like was kind of more suited for like a film like The Hangover, or name me a movie that's like a comedy that's, I can't even think, my brain is like drew a blank. But so for example, there was this one moment at the beginning of the film, when he's just met his OS. This isn't going to ruin anything. He's playing this video game, and then there's this little guy in this video game who's like just, it reminded me of Ted. That was it. I knew there was something. Okay. And then this bit reminded me of Ted. I really like Ted. That's fine, because it's its own little thing. It knows what it is. But in this movie, I just kind of felt like it was out of place. There was this little character who was like really, like a little vulgar little character, you know. But like in some movies, you know, he's funny. But in this, I felt like it wasn't funny and didn't fit him. And that little guy kind of came up again. And there was a couple of things that really kind of threw me off from the movie. Because I didn't feel like they fit in with the movie, and that kind of annoyed me, because I feel like, basically I'll tell you, I gave this movie 4 stars, which obviously is great. I mean, that's great, but I feel like without those little niggly things, I would have gave this movie a higher rating, because it was so interesting and beautiful looking and stuff, but those things kind of, I found weird. Like, I found like they kind of took me away from the movie for a minute, and then it'd take me a minute to get back to where we were at, and I was like, alright, okay. But that's just maybe me. But I'd definitely love to know if you thought that, or if it's just completely me, and that was just how the movie was, and it was just, that's the way. But yeah, so some parts of it I thought were really thought-provoking and just kind of very interesting. But again, some parts, but only a very few, like 3 or 4 parts were a little bit weird. I also really loved getting to know our main character and the flashbacks and his job. His job was really, really interesting, and I really, really loved that. He had like a really unique job. I kind of won't ruin it for you, but you probably tell us in the trailer, but anyway, I just won't ruin it because I didn't know his job before going into this movie. And also, I'm sure that Chris Pratt, does it say on the front? It doesn't. I'm sure that Chris Pratt is in this. Chris Pratt, I think it's him. But I sometimes get him and somebody else confused, but I'm pretty sure, and I also always call him Chris Pine, so who knows. But I'm pretty sure Chris Pratt is in this, and I thought he was funny. I liked him in it. I was like, ah, there he is. Also, Amy Adams is in this movie, and she had a really interesting character. I definitely liked her character and her thoughts and the things that she went through. It was definitely a lot on characters and development and relationships and thoughts about relationships and people and how they are, and I really enjoyed that. It was very interesting to think about some of these things, and there was definitely things while watching this movie that I thought, aha, I should write that down, because that's interesting to think about. I didn't, but I might go back and write it down. So that's always cool. If you can watch a movie and think, you know what, that's a really interesting thought to have, I want to write it down. So it definitely was a good movie and an interesting movie. It was very, very different. I think it's definitely a lot different than any other kind of futuristic films I've seen. I also think it's really different than I expected it to be somehow. I don't really know what I was expecting, but it's definitely different. But yeah, my favourite parts were definitely kind of the more slower parts, I guess you'd say, where it was kind of just a little bit of communication between him and Samantha, and that the other characters. I mean, I did quite like Amy Adams, like I said, but the other characters in it, well then again, I also didn't like Chris Pratt. But apart from that, there was the guy who Amy Adams was with who I didn't really like. There was this other girl in it who I didn't really like. And the flashback girl, I didn't really like her either. But it's okay, you weren't really supposed to like them, it didn't really matter. But yeah, I did like the main guy and Samantha, so that was good. And that was kind of my favourite bit, when it was just those two kind of communicating and laughing. Or when he'd take her out somewhere, that was probably my absolute favourite. And you kind of see around, and I just loved kind of seeing around, and the music, and definitely the piano pieces that she did, I really, really liked. So that was probably my favourite bits of the movie. So like I said, overall I enjoyed this one. It definitely gave me some things to think about, and my thoughts were just kind of all over the place. So I had some really great things and some really kind of things that I thought just didn't quite fit in, but it didn't really take away from it, which is good. The ending, I don't know if I'm very happy about the ending, but I don't think it's a bad ending, but I don't think it's the ending that I wanted, but I don't know how else it could have ended. I couldn't tell you a different ending, so I guess I can't think of a different ending, so I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You know, it's one of those endings, but that's good sometimes, having to think about a different ending. But let me know if you've seen this one. I'd definitely be interested in your thoughts. I know a lot of people like this one, but I can see how some people maybe wouldn't. I definitely think it's going to be kind of a mixed opinion one, but I do think more people enjoy it than people who don't. I've heard not too many bad things about it, but I've heard more good things. But yeah, so overall I enjoyed it. It definitely gave me some things to think about. I need to go back and watch certain parts so I can remember the things that I wanted to remember. I don't know, this didn't make sense. It's one of those films, honestly, I was watching like this review, it's not gonna make any sense. It did not, but that's okay. Those are my jumbled thoughts. It gave me a lot to think about. But yeah, thank you so much, Chris, again for the movie. I really did enjoy it, and it was just kind of so interesting to have so much to think about watching a movie. Anyway, comment down below if you guys have seen this movie. What do you think about it? What do you think about what I thought about it? Until then, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching Friday Reviews. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'll see you then. Goodbye!